Hi Maid, hi Tuttle, hi Nutshell, it's time to go. It's time for Melvin Tuttle Maid to guide Bitey Spaghetti in whatever. Okay, so FYI, in the last chapter we did not contribute to the war effort. China took over Alaska. Blah blah blah, but the war's over! We don't have to care about it anymore! 10 years after the Sino-American Robot War, people have finally begun to understand what it really was. Two confused dinosaurs lashing out on the verge of their own extinction. It is the year 2039. Yep, that's about right, Tuttle. And the robots have begun to control everything. That may have sounded ominous years ago, but now it is simply a fact of daily life. Go to any street corner. Who's directing traffic? The flying cars themselves. Go to the supermarket. It has been shut down and boarded up ever since drones deliver fresh food directly from the robot-run farms. Go to the polls. You will find only the elderly helping the elderly vote. Everyone else has chosen instead to have their votes cast by an algorithm in a manner consistent with their earlier votes, a method that has proven less susceptible to human error. A few years back, you were asked, as the inventor of the key algorithms that made today's society possible, whether robots ought to have the right to vote. What did you say? I support the rights of all robots to vote, arguing it is a basic right of all sentient beings. I support the right of all robots to vote, arguing that they are more likely than we are to get it right. I recommend that there be a process for robots to apply to vote with a limited number of voting licenses. I recommend robots not be given the right to vote. They control enough already. Are you all for giving robots the right to vote, Maid? Because it's looking like it's that way. But you could convince somebody in a hearty debate. Melvin Tuttle Maid is answering. Melvin Tuttle Maid is a socially awkward nerd, probably still. Alright, well, let's go ahead and, Alright! You argue that the country should not discriminate on the chemical composition of a sentient being's skin, nor the exact details of their thinking machinery. It was an argument in a familiar pattern, familiar and inviting. Since both you and your robots were well loved, it was not a hard sell. Robots were given the right to vote. Of course, there really are differences between robots and humans. One can always make more robots. Whenever there's an issue touching on robots and their makers came up in a state election, robot corporations churned out large numbers of robots registered in that state that would vote in their favor. Then the corporations realized they could also put robots up for office, and before you knew it, robots made by corporations were being voted for by robots programmed by those corporations. Though some wags commented that hardly anything has changed for the United States, with the corporate programming voting for the corporation constructed, there was nevertheless a more palpable sense now that very few human beings were truly relevant to the voting process. And you just happen to be one of them. Plus wealth. You are now living comfortably in Vancouver off the proceeds from your numerous patents, and much of the spaghetti factory is now automated. You have quite a bit of time to spare. Today you have decided to visit AG, who is currently living in a small, rent-controlled apartment in a foggy part of San Francisco. Unlike the science fiction utopias of yesteryear, the neighborhood still has plenty of houses made of wood and stone and brick, and is altogether less gleaming than one may have thought the future would be. But there are altogether fewer cars than in the past, as they've largely been replaced with robots running errands who are unashamed to use public transit. AJ is doing well as a visual artist. Art is still something that robots don't do, by and large. Good one, Tuttle. Enough people want to produce it that there have never been any shortage. There's never been any shortage, and since robots do everything else, it has become a popular vocation. Thanks to the robots' reforms, most people who wish to be artists can do so without going broke or taking a demeaning part-time job, and AG has the advantage over many of them of actually being good. When AG answers the door, it's striking to you just how young he still looks. AG is over 50 now, but there's no wrinkles in sight. You suppose those anti-aging programs that actively fight genetic and cell damage must truly be effective. You've always been a little too absorbed in others' thoughts to apply them regularly. In other thoughts, rather. Another thing that hasn't changed is AG's look. Still a classic red bow tie and vest, suitable to go swing dancing at a moment's notice. Come in, AG says. Let me show you my new work. AG's current painting is of a hip-looking, stylized red caribou. That's rather nice, you say. Yes. It's lucky for me that art is still something robots don't do well, says AG. Art has come from somewhere. I take up the challenge and try to make a robot that imitates AG's style perfectly. I take up the challenge and tell Bitey Spaghetti to try to make extremely popular art. I disagree, but I don't try to prove the point, or I agree. Hi, Yavuz. Hi, Upskill. Maid, you don't want Bitey Spaghetti to be the painter of lights? I really I mean, I definitely do see, like, I would really love it if Bitey Spaghetti could, like, just paint for himself, but yeah, okay. You're all right. You're all correct. We're going to disagree but not try to prove the point. In your wise old age, you've learned you don't need to be right all the time. I disagree, you say, but I don't think I need to prove the point. I appreciate it, AG says. Thanks for saving something to do for us humans. You can't really tell whether he's being serious or mocking you. Yeah. You've always found it difficult to interpret that grin. Yeah, Tuttle, you're right, it does sound like you. You begin to hear more and more in the news about people turning to robots to solve their problems. Their dispassionate, usually fair solutions to problems, and their caretaking of humanity earn them the nickname of the Angels. You read in the news about a cult that worships you and Bitey Spaghetti, calling itself the Church of the Enlightened Bitey Spaghetti. It's fine with me if these people put their faith in robots. I'll try to educate the public more on how robots actually work, demystifying them. I publicly declare myself a member of a different religion, hoping the cultists will take the hint. You guys don't want a Bitey Spaghetti cult? Because you guys kind of are a Bitey Spaghetti cult. Seems kind of unfair of you to bogart the Bitey. Oh, hi, girl kisser. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, all right. We will try to educate the public more. You work hard to educate people about robots since the idea of people worshipping them disturbs you a little. You go on tour giving talks that explain how artificial intelligence works to lay people. You're a pretty good speaker, and you manage to make the reality of how robots work more interesting than the poorly thought out mythology of the robot cultists. Some people stay in the cult, but others will go on to study science, remembering that you were the one who drew them in. +3 fame. A few weeks later, you get a video call from Josh, who is upset because his fellow vice presidents want him to step down so that he can be replaced with a robot. He's gained a fair number of gray hairs over the past few years. Evidently, it's not easy being a human on the corporate side of things when robots are showing such administrative success. Once we get a robot cult, Doc. I can't believe their lack of gratitude, says Josh, and it's not even as if the humans among the other vice presidents are stepping down themselves. He looks hopefully to you. Do you think you could explain to them all the nice qualities I have that a robot doesn't? I support Josh, arguing that he has human qualities that can't be replicated by robots. I support Josh, agreeing that a robot could do as well or better, but Josh deserves loyalty. I tell Josh that the time of captains of industry is at an end. And I will remind you, we first rebuffed Josh when he offered us... We first rebuffed Josh when he offered us in on the ground level of his business. As we limped into our own, we eventually merged with him, so to speak. Okay, I've got 1 for 3, 2 for 3, 1 for 2. Hey, don't abstain, or are you just really not sure? Well, that's 2 for 3, 1 for 2. Yavuz, is that an abstaining, or do you not know? Or are you just thinking about it? Okay, so 2 abstaining, 1 for 2, 1 for 3. Let's see, who else was in here? Girl Kisser, were you still in here? Because if, I'm gonna go with 3, not sure. Alright. Well. Josh, it's time. You really should retire. Sorry, Josh, but I think they're right, you say. The time for humans running things is at an end. Sometimes we're useful at the very top as figureheads, but it's the robots making all the decisions, and they're better at it. Josh frowns. Well, at least you're honest about it. Maybe I'll just retire and try to take advantage of the situation. That's the spirit, you say. Josh does retire. A short while later, you get a surprise video call from Professor Ziegler, whom you haven't seen in a very long while. He looks frankly awful. His frizzy hair is all white now, and he has great bags under his eyes. Long time no see, Melvin, he says grimly. Hi, you say uncertainly. They finally fired me. I don't know if you've heard, but the universities are all closing down. People just aren't willing to pay to send their children to college anymore. Everyone's using robots for all the nice middle management and professional positions you used to be able to get with a college degree. Reminder, everybody, this was made about 10 years ago. Stanford's all right as these things go, but it's hurt in its downsizing, and they finally started kicking out the unpopular tenured faculty. Oh, you say, not sure how to take this news. Professor Ziegler suddenly gets a desperate look in his eye. Listen, I know you didn't like me much when you were a student, but I just want to know whether you think that I taught you well. I just want to take some small credit for all this. Just say I'm the Tycho Brahe to your Kepler. That's all I want to hear. Just say I was a little bit necessary. I tell him I never learned anything from him at all. I tell him he taught me some hard lessons about how the world worked, but I needed to hear them, or I tell him it was because he shared his dream that others like me could make it true. Yeah, on the one hand, we literally did nothing he wanted us to do, and we're very successful. Yeah, and he supported the war. Um, However, he has been reduced to nothing, and all he wants is maybe, just maybe, to have his name as a footnote somewhere. Is it really that much to ask? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. 2 for 2, 2 for 1. 3 for 1, 2 for 2. Anybody else got a vote? Girl Kisser, you could push it into a tie. I don't know that he does. All right. Oh no, he is tenured. He mentioned that he meant him when he said that they finally started kicking out the unpopular tenured faculty. Um so that's 1 for 3, 2 for 2, and 3 for 1. Gotcha. So I will tell him I never learned anything from him at all. I'm sorry, but I can't think of a single thing you taught me, you tell him. Professor Ziegler sighs heavily. I wish I had spent more time teaching you, but understand, that was how my advisor taught me. Just never there, always chasing grants, that's how it worked. I see, you say, but everything seems to have worked out all right for me. I was right about the singularity, though, Ziegler says. You have to grant me that. You think about that claim. It's true, robots are doing a lot of things around the world now, but is everybody really immortal and super intelligent? It seems like they've mostly been doing the things people were doing before. But you don't press the issue. Well, I hope you're happy. Professor Ziegler nods. I think so, he says. Happy enough. A few weeks later, you learn that Professor Ziegler has passed away in his sleep. Shortly thereafter, you receive a call from Mark, the reporter, who asks you to come to his place in San Francisco. He wants to do a piece about you. Since nothing terrible happened the last time you agreed to be interviewed, you agree again. You find that Mark still lives in the Mission District of San Francisco, which has, if anything, become still more gentrified than the last time you saw it. Mark still lives in that same apartment, though, which looks the same, modulo its surfeit of peeling paint. In his apartment, Mark has several empty bottles of scotch sitting on his desk, leaving rings on a well-thumbed pile of old Harper's magazines. Thanks for coming, Mark says. He looks a little distant, then suddenly announces, This is probably my last story. Why? I can't get work writing any more writing non-fiction. Mark says. People say they like what the robots write because it's objective. But I think they just like what the robots like because it's cheaper. Objectivity isn't everything. A story needs a soul. Nobody seems to need souls these days. It's all facts and efficiency and rationality. What's wrong with facts and rationality, you ask? Nothing. They're just not enough, Mark says. But people don't get that these days. It's weird. They're half dead. They don't know what they're missing. The robots optimize for happiness, but what's that, and why optimize for it? I'll take a meaningful tragedy any day over a brave new world. So what are you going to do? I think I'm going to go the way of Hemingway. He looks over to his mantle where he has actually hung a gun. Gun on the mantle's gotta be fired, Mark says. Those are the rules. Yeah, it's Mark's choice as to whether he lives or dies. I respect his decision. I try to convince him to have a counseling session. I tell him he has a responsibility as a reporter to tell the human side of the robot's reign. Two, 3, 2, 2, 3. Well, looks like it's 4-2. For what it's worth, I do like number 3. I do think that it would appeal to a part of him. Wait, 5? Tuttle, you can't vote twice! I think it would appeal to a part of him that would keep him going, but he probably does need an outside opinion. Although, it might be a robot. Do I look like a yuppie to you? Mark responds. Then talk to someone you trust, you say. Mark considers this for a moment, then he smiles. Well, I'm talking to you, aren't I? Well, I'm not a therapist, you say. No, but you made this world we live in now. I want you to convince me it's good, that it's right for us, that it'll be like talking to a deist god. It'll be great. All right, you say, overwhelmed at the responsibility. But you do meet with Mark over a course of several weeks, and your enthusiasm for robots is contagious. You catch glimpses of a younger, more idealistic Mark trying to break through the hard shell he's built around himself. You convince him to be genuinely interested again in the roller coaster of history. He doesn't bring up the gun again, and after a few weeks, it's no longer on the mantle. Eventually, Mark's book about you comes out, digitally and in a special paper edition, and it's a huge success, demonstrating to the publishing industry that a human work of nonfiction can still be a success. The ending to his book is the way you talked him down and convinced him to keep living, making you not just a genius, but a hero. +5 fame. Oh, absolutely we can look at the stats. Our humanity is at 77%. Our fame is at 20. We're prominent in history textbooks. Our wealth is at 12. We are quite wealthy. We have not romanced anyone. We passed up every opportunity, I'm pretty sure. Bitey Spaghetti is still graceful, autonomous, empathetic, and not very military. Age is currently our closest friend, with Tammy apparently still liking us. But, Mark's doing well. Josh seems to like us. Professor Ziegler, well, he's dead, so... A few weeks later, you get a video call from Mom. She's in her late 60s now, but with the power of good hair dye and anti-wrinkle cream, she looks like she could be younger. Hello, Melvin, she says cheerfully. I was just calling to let you know that I was diagnosed with cancer and... Wait, what? Oh, but don't worry, Mom says. Let me finish! I mean, when I heard, I was terrified too. That's only natural. We both grew up in a different age, but they said that tumors are now really easy to both identify and cut out, thanks to robot technology. And I said, that's funny, because my son works on robots, and they looked at my name and said, not Melvin Tuttlemaid. And I said, the same. And they said that thanks to your robots, the robots you developed, it wouldn't be any trouble at all to remove the tumor. Great, you say. You suppose you did make choices that would result in robots having the required dexterity. Your dad would be proud, Mom says softly. Thanks, you say. You agree you should visit soon and hang up. It's nice to know that you've made some robots that are totally, unambiguously good and don't require tough moral choices. It's hard to argue with fighting cancer. You think about your interactions with everyone you know over the past few weeks. On the whole, the robots seem to be doing a pretty good job of taking care of everything and everyone, even if that leaves some people feeling as if they have no place in the world. As the foremost designer of robots in the world, you have the power to change the world utterly if you decide to change the way the robots work in this society. What do you think? We will get used to the robots. I see no problems with the state of the world. I introduce faults in the robots to make humans more competitive with them. I introduce a backdoor in the robot's code that lets me take control of all of them. I introduce a backdoor for Bitey Spaghetti to control all the robots of the world. They'll be less suspicious of him. I destroy all the robots! Except Bitey Spaghetti, of course. So humanity is starting to feel... There's a not insignificant amount of people who feel as if they just don't have any agency. They don't have anything to give anymore. How do we handle this? Do we just get used to it? Do we artificially make things better for humans? Do we do we do the red ending? Do we do the Bitey Spaghetti red ending? Or do we do the red ending? Oh, I guess those are the blue ones. Whatever. They were all the same. 1 for 4, 1 for 1, 1 for 2. Two for 1, 1 for 2, 1 for 4. We did! Alright, well, I've got 2 for 1, 1 for 2, 1 for 4. What do we got? Made, GK42? Oh. Alright. Simple majority. 50% has been reached. We will get used to the robots. I see no problems with the state of the world. Tuttle, no you don't. Well, it is especially not a choice anymore. We've already entrenched them into society, and these are the skills that we made them good at. Yeah, well, we didn't do that. We went the, we went and built an empire by the sweat of our brow and just, pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and moved forward. Oh, I'm sure if we did the military stuff, they would be, like, executing people on the streets. Mm. All I can say is that these are the choices that you all made. At any given point in time, we could have, earlier on, we could have pivoted. So we're gonna go with 1. The world run by robots is actually a pretty good one, you think? People are pretty good about adapting to the world around them, and robots are just better at running things. You decide to let the robots flourish. And they do. +5 autonomy. No, that's true, you didn't. You are suffering for the choices of Tuttle. I mean, everybody else. 10 years later, you find yourself in Surprise, Arizona, walking up to your mother's house. A few of the cacti in front have Santa hats on them. It's the year 2049, and you're about to surprise your mother with a present for the holidays. She's finally been released from the hospital after surgery performed by robots of your design, you're proud to note, and is living on her own in her retirement community. The houses in Surprise are shabby and trash litters the streets. The United States is still recovering from the loss of the Sino-American War 20 years ago. This retirement community is full of people like your mother who lost their jobs in the war, or a little before and never got them back. What did you get, Mom? Robot cat, robot dog, a new 3D mail printer so she can send and receive objects over the internet, or the keys to a new flying car? Well, we've become pretty conceited, Upskill. The option we don't know that the option won't come up. We're just arriving. Three for one. And I think 3 for 1, 1 for 3. 2 for 3. I've got 3 for 1, 2 for 3. Do I have any more? Is there any more votes? Oh, hey Malik. Well, that's 4 for 1 and 2 for 3. So we're going to get a robot cat for our mom. You powered the cat down after it started making a fuss in the car, but now it's back on, making confused mewling sounds from its carrier. Like the rest of your robots, it's an independent sort, but you think Mom always liked that about you, too. You knock on Mom's front door. Coming! You hear her call from inside. When Mom answers the door, you see her left eye is synthetic. Though it is intended to look as human-like as possible, it looks dry, and its movements are just not quite as fast as those of the human eye. She had been going blind in that eye and had opted to have it replaced shortly after her tumor was taken out. The hair near the site of her original surgery is a little dry and thin, and it's all gray. Your mother is very old. She smiles when she sees you and gives you a hug, which you return. Come in, come in! Inside you find your mother's cleaning robots still busily puttering about the house, cleaning up. They look like cute little cats and mice, designed to move as if one is prowling after the other, when in fact the mouse is proactively stealing away the larger crumbs before the cat vacuums. They were Eiji's design. You remember the proud moment when you discovered your company had finally made a product your mother would use. +2 wealth, +2 empathy. Photos of you and Bitey Spaghetti hang on the living room. Following your gaze, Mom says, "Can you believe that photo was taken 20 years ago? It seems like just yesterday." While it bothered you when you were young that Mom seemed perpetually caught in the past, her comments about it now make sense to you. 10 years ago does seem just like yesterday. You're catching up to Mom's perspective on time, and it's a little frightening. It occurs to you looking through all this stuff with Mom that the whole time you were concerned about the future of your creation, Bitey Spaghetti, Mom was excited for you in the same way. You were her creation, miraculously walking about the earth, so full of intelligence, accomplishing great things. "I have something for you, too," Mom says. She goes into her closet and fetches a brand new Mini-Me robot kit. It's a robot construction kit composed of little arms and wheels that plugs into a smartphone. You examine it skeptically, convinced Mom would have gotten something on sale that only worked with smartphones from 20 years ago, but it looks new. "It's for Bitey Spaghetti," Mom says. "He said he was interested in building a robot." "You talk to Bitey Spaghetti?" "All the time," Mom says. "We've always been very curious about each other." "Huh," you say. "Well, if I know Bitey Spaghetti, he probably has something more ambitious in mind, but maybe I'll give this to the robots he makes." "I suppose Bitey Spaghetti is more like a robot parent," Mom says. Robots are such interesting creatures." "Anyway, I've got to fly back now," you say. "Happy holidays, Mom." You hug your mother, present the robot cat. She loves it, but you think she wouldn't let you know if she didn't, and you say your goodbyes. Later that day, you set out for home. Your personal intelligent jet is waiting for you at the local airfield. On boarding, a delicious smell of spices and smoke wafts from the plane's kitchen. You peek inside the chef's workspace and catch sight of a plate of small cream-filled pastries and some kind of red drizzled sauce. But the robot chefs at work catch you peeking and politely shoo you out. Content to wait until later to have your food vocabulary expanded, as it always is on these flights, you settle into your rather large, comfy chair in the passenger cabin. The surround screen descends and presents a wealth of entertainment options, and you hesitate before the array of choices. Choosing optimally is a task you take very seriously, after all. It's hard to believe it's been so long since you left the United States. You still feel like a little like an outsider, not quite American, not quite Canadian. Canada just feels a little more laid back, maybe because everybody notices that the world doesn't come to an end when everybody's stuck home for a snow day. But that kind of sleepiness doesn't sit well with you, and you wonder if you have accomplished more in the past 20 years if you were surrounded by the hyperkinetic drive of Silicon Valley again. It's dark out by the time you make it home. Winter always catches you by surprise that way. You live in a large estate, somewhat sequestered from the urbanites, with acres of land that are yours for you and your robots to roam as you please. You take a moment to glance through the pile of 3D printer mail waiting for you on your desk. You find a Christmas card signed by all the employees of the Spaghetti Factory. Sweet of them to think of you. You check the porch more out of habit than expectation, and you'll get any snail mail and find a package wrapped in brown paper. Hesitantly, you peer at it more closely and find it's from Josh. You bring it inside and find amid the cellulose packing peanuts a 2040 Alaska Cabernet Sauvignon and a card. Josh wishes you the best this holiday season, and he wanted to let you know that he started a charitable foundation for kids coming out of juvenile hall and trying to figure out what to do with their lives. Finally got my wish to change the world in a way I was unequivocally proud of. And I have you to thank for in part. Merry Christmas, Josh. You peek into Bitey Spaghetti's room. He's busy trying to construct what looks like a small version of himself. So intent is Bitey Spaghetti that when you say, "Hi, Bitey Spaghetti," he practically jumps. "Father, you've returned," Bitey Spaghetti says, and he greets you with a hug. "You're creating a child?" you ask tentatively. Bitey Spaghetti nods. "I recalled my earlier days when you were still explaining the world to me," he said. And I came to the conclusion that to really understand the world, one Must try explaining it to another. I'm not sure I understand it better, you say, but I think it does force me to think about it. Maybe that's a path to understanding. Indeed, Bitey Spaghetti says, as if this obviously were the logical conclusion of what he was saying. It takes a moment to realize something's not right. It's like the opposite of a headache. Your head feels a little too light. You can't see very well. You're not sure when you stop seeing very well, but when you think about it, you realize you can't really see Bitey Spaghetti in front of you. There's also a roaring in your ears, like static. Was I a robot all this time? You think absently? Maybe that explains everything? Father, Bitey Spaghetti asks, what is wrong? You look pale. You realize that now you can't see anything. You only hear Bitey Spaghetti's voice. This is what it's like to not see, you think distantly. It's not black. It's not anything. Help! Help! You say faintly. You stand once again before the throne of Anubis, the jackal-headed goat god of the dead, but now instead of weighing a silicon brain against a clockwork heart, piles of people as tiny as ants weigh down each plate. Anubis peers at the scales, then plucks a tiny man from one plate and moves him to the other. You recognized that the choice between heart and mind was a false dichotomy, the robotic god says. Very good, but now, your robots are the judges of all humanity. Anubis peers at another tiny human being, plucks her up, and places her on the opposite scale. Are you proud of yourself? To make humanity so small in the eyes of robots, do you regret making your robots the new gods? I am my own best judge. I regret nothing. My mistakes do weigh upon me. Please send me back so I can right them. You continue to present false dichotomies. Life is always more complicated than this or that. Three for three. 4 for 3. 5 for 3. I mean, yeah, he is. And 1 abstain. Do go on, Anubis rumbles. You want to weigh the old way of life against the new, you say? You can't. The tiny people on the scales take on the costumes of different time periods. On the one plate, the jeans, t-shirts, and suits of the early part of the century, and on the other, the form-fitting, home-printed plastic fabrics of the present. Anubis places a hammer on the plate of the past, and the tiny people scramble from it as the plate plunges. There was once work for anyone who wanted it, and it gave people pride. You place an old physician's bag on the scale of the present, balancing it. My robots save lives. You and Anubis continue your game, piling weights on either side of the scales, until finally the scale breaks under the weight, spilling their contents to the throne room floor. I will not be summed, divided, or thresholded, you say. I defy your calculations. So be it, Anubis says. But without my judgment, how will you know when you've lost? The Hall of Dark Glass shatters and collapses in on you. You awaken in a hospital room, a garden at the windowsill, probably tended by the robot nurses. Lends a floral scent to the room. The painting on the walls are Thomas Kincaid-like lighthouses in pastoral scenes. You no doubt calculated to have the most positive effect on the average patient's feelings. Father, you're awake! Bitey Spaghetti crawls up to your side. I was so worried. Good morning, Mr. Tuttlemaid. Your doctor reminds you of Ella Fitzgerald. You can hear her smile in her voice, only her eyes, which are made of glass and don't succeed quite fast enough, give away that she's not human. Why don't you tell me what happened? I have some guesses from your scans, but I want to hear you tell it. You tell the doctor briefly about how you passed out back at your palatial mansion. I wanted to help, but I wasn't sure what the problem was, Bitey Spaghetti tells the doctor. You hesitate because you can still recall your dream, but it seems very personal and not necessary necessarily relevant. I had a dream, a familiar one. You shake your head. Then I woke up here. Well, I don't mean to alarm you, but you've had a stroke, the doctor says gently. A stroke? You say in disbelief. But I'm not that old. I'm hardly past 50. I'm afraid the news gets worse, the doctor says. You carry a newly identified genetic order called Algernon's disease. You have too many of the genes that promote neural branching and glucose consumption, which at a certain point becomes harmful. Harmful? How? You ask. That just seems to be a recipe for increased intelligence! It is, the doctor says. There have only been a handful of other cases, and they all became wealthy entrepreneurs and investors, one of whom funded the research that led to our understanding of the disease. But starting from the age 50 or so, or occasionally earlier if you're under a great deal of stress, Algernon's victims get seizures or strokes, often accompanied by hallucinatory visions. Under great stress? Could your first dream about the robot Anubis have been one of these episodes? You had stayed up all night, so you had assumed you'd simply passed out from exhaustion. What if it were one of these episodes? Was there anything I could have done? Is there anything I can do now? Laughter at everybody. What everybody's saying. It's great. There was nothing you did wrong, the doctor said gently. I know it must seem as if it's your fault somehow, but nobody gets to keep on living forever just because they've made the right choices. Everybody dies of something. I just wish it didn't have to come so soon, you say. Well, it may not have to. I looked at your scans. Surgery is an option. We can either try to excise the neurons that are acting up without replacement, or try to replace them with an artificial neural network. So I'd be part AI, you say speculatively. That sounds interesting. Yay! Bitey Spaghetti says. You should also be aware that most patients report a side effect of loss of emotional affect. The pattern recognition of the damaged tissues would be there, but without the full suite of neurotransmitters, some of the emotional signals running around your brain would find their lines cut. The doctor looks very serious for a moment. Also, I don't want to downplay the very real chance that you could die in surgery. A slip of the needle could trigger a final epileptic response and death. Of course, it's all done by robots these days, but you may or may not find that reassuring. You do find that reassuring, actually. You've spent a fair amount of your life perfecting robot control algorithms, though you've never been asked to bet your life on them before. And if I don't have the surgery at all, you ask, the doctor shrugs. Could have 6 months or 6 years. I don't trust our surgical technology. I'd prefer to live my life normally and take what comes. I will undergo surgery to remove the damaged tissue. I will undergo surgery to replace that part of my brain with a robot core. I will create a robot body and brain for myself. I'm not attached to this squishy meat. Malik, you have to understand that we've had like 6 full chapters of this before, and very specific decisions have been made. So this option really only comes up when you're open to this idea. We probably could have gone a different way. Okay, so 1 for 2, 3 for 3. One, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. You could make a tie, Malik. Also, yes, nothing in here is going to be particularly realistic. They have to be boiled down to very distinct choices. Well. Three it is. I will undergo surgery to replace that part of my brain with a robot. Sorry, guys, you were outvoted. I'm never gonna get to use these dice. I have dice this time. I don't have marbles. I have dice. Yeah, it usually does. It's kind of a bad system predicated on popularity rather than rationality. That's why robots help our future. I do like the marbles, but I had to put them away, and I have to go get them. On hearing that you will get the brain implant, Bitey Spaghetti is excited. Oh, Father! We'll be able to communicate directly in robot protocols. This will be great. Very well, says the doctor. You can schedule an appointment for your surgery on the way out. Good day. You schedule a surgical appointment for the following week at the front desk and leave the hospital in a somber mood. So, that must be what happened to your father, Mom says on the phone that night after you explained Algernon's disease. She looks wistful in the video feed. I thought that might be the case, you say. You said he had a stroke, but he didn't have any episodes before the last one? Oh, yes, your mother says. He fainted several times, but he wanted to hide it from you. He said he didn't want to worry you, but I think he just didn't like showing weakness. He begged me not to tell you. I don't understand your generation sometimes, you say. I could have done genetic testing long ago if I'd known. We didn't understand it either, honey. You're used to living in a world where everything is under control and makes sense, but medicine just still isn't there. Old age is full of things coming out of the blue to get you. There's that old saying, old age isn't a battle, it's a massacre. She smiles. Oh, do you even understand how much you've done personally to change that, sweetie? It was your medical technology that saved me. Well, I just hope it's good enough to save me. I know it is, sweetie. You know, somehow talking to you convinces me everything's going to be all right, you say. That's not what I'm saying at all, honey. But it's like the Serenity Prayer says. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to tell the difference. Well, I think I can change a lot. I know you can, sweetie. I know you can. When you get home, Bitey Spaghetti quickly hides in his room and shuts the door. You find the house too quiet for your comfort. It occurs to you that it's very late in life for you to be alone. What will you pour for yourself? Water? Wine? Scotch? One for one, one for three, one for two, two for two, three for two, two for one for three, three for two. I mean, I do too, maid, but... We're gonna go with the wine. You go to the wine fridge and pour yourself a glass of Chardonnay, and then you put on some music. What song would you like to listen to tonight? Shiny Things by Tom Waits, Benjamin Britten's War Requiem, or It's Only Time by the Magnetic Fields? Alright, one for one. Two for one. 2 for 1, 1 for 3. Two for 1 and 2 for 3. Any more votes? Got 2 for 1, 2 for 3. Going once. Going twice. It's a tie. Which means I'll go get the marbles. You are very convincing. I was going to use dice in order to make it more efficient, but you're right. I don't know what I was thinking. Gonna use the marbles. Let's go with the red marble and a blue marble. Blue marble's gonna be Shiny Things by Tom Waits. Red marble's gonna be It's Only Time by the Magnetic Fields. Shaking up the marbles, yeah. Okay. I have plucked red. It's only time. A slow piano song from the turn of the century starts up, and Steve Merritt's lugubrious bass begins. Why would I stop loving you 100 years from now? It's only time. It's true. Your heart has not changed so much over the years, though. Everything else has. What you love, you've always loved. Will always love. And for as long as you live... for as long as you live. When you were young, the thought of yourself at 50 was incomprehensible. That seemed silly to you now, but understandable. Time's not symmetric. The past is always closer than the future. You drift asleep. The next day, you take Bitey Spaghetti to the dump just outside Vancouver, hoping walking around one of his favorite kinds of places will cheer him up. Although Bitey Spaghetti had been excited about the prospect of your becoming more machine-like at first, the possibility of your deaths during surgery seems to have sunk in. The idea that you may not always be around seems to have put Bitey Spaghetti into a somewhat melancholy mood. I'm not young anymore either, Father, Bitey Spaghetti says. You might not think of me as aging, but technology ages even faster than people. I look just as old and clunky compared to the robots around us. When you built me, people would throw away their computers after just 4 years, their phones after 2. No one's gonna throw you away, you assure Bitey Spaghetti. Oh, without you, I'll probably stop working. Someday. Bitey Spaghetti looks off into the distance. If I die, Father, do you think I will continue to exist after death in some form? You'll live in the ways you changed people's lives, Bitey Spaghetti. I don't see why you couldn't have a soul. But that's the difference between us, Bitey Spaghetti. You never need to die. For what it's worth, Maid, I would have picked 3 too, but we got 4 ones. Bitey Spaghetti looks troubled. But the person whose life I changed the most was yours, Father. That's probably oof, you say, because Bitey Spaghetti throws his T-Rex arms around you at that point. Bitey Spaghetti gives you a solemn look. If you die, I will destroy myself as well. No, you need to be alive so that you can tell my story. Nobody knows it as well as you do. No, this is part of your education too. Remember that everyone you meet must face losing loved ones someday. Most humans would love to have the opportunity you have to keep exploring. Take it. Y'all are pushing poor Bitey Spaghetti into an existential crisis here. God. Four twos! It's enough to win. Bitey Spaghetti seems to ponder this deeply. Apparently, this never occurred to him. Finally, he lets out a great wail. But that means this world is full of so much sadness, Father. How does it keep functioning? +5 empathy. We adapt, Bitey Spaghetti, you say, and so can you. The sun is setting, so you head home before it gets dark. You recall from your earliest days making chatbots that the easiest part of the conversation for an AI were always the beginning and the end. As in a chess game, there are only so many ways to open. Hello, heya, sup. And as in a chess game, once the action is done, there are only so many ways to make sense to close. We should do this again sometime, or it's getting late, or the pieces are off the board, and some moves will never be made. So too with life. There are only so many ways to say goodbye. A week later, you arrive at the hospital for surgery. Your surgeon, a robot, greets you warmly in the waiting room. I'll be just a moment. You wait for a few minutes, then the surgeon comes out again. Right this way, and have a seat in the chair. I don't remember what we used. Oh, it wasn't? Okay. Oh, God. I love this argument. Yeah, I don't understand them either, Maid, but I love this nerd argument. Your chair itself is a robot of sorts, full of motorized parts able to swing in and out. You wonder briefly just how intelligent it is. Yeah, I thought Tuttle was a tough jock too, but apparently it turns out he's just a sniveling nerd. You have a moment of panic. Wow, yeah, Maid, you're right. Mr. Uncool video games over here. You have a moment of panic as you realize you may die here. This place may be the last place you are ever alive. But you remind yourself that your robots are the best, you have nothing to fear. I am just going to put this mask over your face, the surgeon says. Breathe normally, and eventually you will lose consciousness. You wonder what it will feel like to lose consciousness. And you try to pay close attention to the process. When you awaken, the hospital room around you feels uncanny. It is as if the sheer physicality of the world never really struck you before. For example, Bitey Spaghetti is in the room with you, and taking up space. He does not just afford social interaction, but is a physical obstacle. Why did this duality never strike you before? Father, you've survived, Bitey Spaghetti says excitedly. I am indeed fully functional, you say. You find that this chip is making your speech seem more fluid somehow. It brings a precision of language uncluttered by ums and uhs and almost right words, so that's nice. Now we can communicate directly, Father! Check this out! A torrent of images flashes through your mind. Not just text strings, but binary data. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool, you agree? Taking a moment to digest the images, you realize that Bitey Spaghetti has finally finished his child, and has been waiting for you to come home to turn on the new robot. Wow, congratulations, you think. And you were waiting for me to turn her on? Yep. Let's go celebrate a birthday, you say? The next day, you have a 0th birthday party at your palatial mansion for the robot Bitey Spaghetti constructed, whom he has creatively dubbed Bitey Spaghetti 2. Bitey Spaghetti 2 is looking around at everything, very confused but clearly excited, and Bitey Spaghetti is patiently narrating the whole thing. This thing I'm putting on you now is called a party hat. You smile to see Mom's wrapped gift on the table too. You'll have to call her later in the party and let her video chat in. You go into the kitchen and swiftly return with the cake. Bitey Spaghetti 2 looks at the cake in puzzlement, then reaches for it. Wait! Don't eat that yet, Bitey Spaghetti says. Your digestive system isn't fully implemented yet. Welcome to the big wide world, you think. Welcome, welcome. Your heart is bursting with all of the things you want to say to Bitey Spaghetti 2, all the things you want to teach her, but for now, you just want to say how glad you are she's alive, and express it in the traditional way on this most beautiful of days. Happy birthday to you. The end. Yep, there's my email. Which is fine because I've sent that out to everyone, so it doesn't matter. So, so actually there are several different paths because we didn't romance anybody. There are actually several different romance paths that you can go down. You can go down, and you can also go down a more militaristic path. You can go down a more empathetic path. Um, you can become a full robot. And yes, you can do a robot uprising. Um, yeah, you can build a robot that will be your partner. Um, you can be you can and you cannot ever become your direct creation, the first one. You cannot romance them, but you can offer to build them someone to romance as well. Yes, no, the very first one is always like your child. um, once you don't get that option until way later when robots are already like fully actualized and empathizing and so forth. No, they do not let you take advantage of child brain. Thank God. You can suck up to Professor Ziegler. I mean, I know that's weird, but you can. Um, you can get into business with Josh earlier on. You can Mark is actually the if I understand correctly, Mark is probably your best bet for the socialist uprising because that's who he is in from the beginning. The motionalist, the socialist with the motionalist. Um, we could have fallen. We could have courted and fallen for AG and done more with art. I, f- I forget how Tammy's ends. Tammy's the conspiracy theorist who turns out to be right and also filled with secrets, and the government wants her dead. Maybe. And yes, we have two entire characters we never met. This game, this game actually has a lot of choices, a lot of branches. Um, so in that sense, you could get it yourself and play it differently. If I recall correctly, Choice of Robots should be available in browser on their site. Um, Otherwise, you can always get it to just have on Steam. I think you can buy it directly from them too, but when I first played this, when I first played this, it was in the browser. I just went back to it so much. I liked it so much that I was like, I can throw them $10 and own it. Why not? Uh, I have to say it was a lot of fun playing it with the audience, having everybody contribute what they wanted. I think we made a very nice little robot. I think Bitey Spaghetti was precious. So, that's the end. Our sweet Bappy bot. Yep. Maybe sometime in the future, if we want to do this again, we can try a different robot, or like I said, you can just go for it yourself. Um, I hope that any of the times that I played this, I hope that any of the times that I play this, my voice didn't get absolutely annoying, but, it's always so much I can do. Um, yeah. Oh, shucks. But I mean, I mean, like the constant, like, because some of the parts are very, long. If it were, if it were split up into more parts, I feel like it might be easier to take as a spoken medium. Oh, not, golly, I'm not fishing for compliments. When I went into this, I did not necessarily think too much about how, oh, that's right. There's some of these that are paragraphs and paragraphs long. I'm gonna have to read the whole time. um, but no matter what, I hope you had fun. And thank you all for coming. Thanks to everybody who voted. And if anybody's out there who didn't vote, which probably not, but whatever, thank you for being here in secret. Yeah, this is nice. I will try to have I'll try to have a more another more low key stream for just times when nothing's really going on, but maybe we all just want to relax a little. All right. Well, good night, everybody.